Hello, welcome to our podcast, Living with Heart Disease. Is it possible to live a longer quality of life after a heart disease diagnosis? We are the patients and caregiver who have resolved to become healthier, both physically and mentally, managing symptoms to managing side effects, from managing medication to managing finances. We share the challenges and the triumphs. Discover what it really means to survive and thrive with a heart condition. This is Living with Heart Disease, a Heart of a Giant production. Here's your host, Somade Bouba Jeme. Hi, welcome everyone. Welcome to Living with Heart Disease. Today on the show, we have Jodie Hall. My name is Bouba Jeme, Heart of a Giant. So it's a pleasure to finally catch up with her and then get to hear her story. We've been trying this for 2 years and there was always something on my side, blocking the way. So I'm happy that we finally got here. So hi, Jodie, welcome to the show. And tell us a little bit about, who you are, where you are here now, and a little bit about your condition to get started.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I reside in North Carolina and I've had congestive heart failure for 23 years now, actually, since my son has been born. And it was due to childbirth.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
I was 19 years old when I was diagnosed. Patrick, my son, was about 2 weeks old. It was very rough because I don't think they had seen anyone with that condition at such a young age at that time. So I was misdiagnosed with a couple things. But I was put in contact with some doctors, cardiologists, and things went to rolling. So that was the beginning of it in 2000.
That's a big shock because, you are 19, going for a pregnancy, which is already rough. And now you have to deal with congestive heart failure and then raise a baby at the same time. What was that like for you? Like that moment where, like you said, you went through some diagnosis. So what was those diagnoses? But when it got to like this final diagnosis of heart disease or congestive heart failure, like take us back to those moments.
All I can remember, as a woman, they say that all of your organs expand to be able to support the child. So I had my first appointment after I had my son, and I was explaining to the doctor that I was short of breath and just really tired. And she said, maybe it's because of the new baby. Things are getting normal. You'll be okay. And it just got worse. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't lay down. I couldn't walk very far. And my mother said, it's time for you to go to the hospital. And it went on for about a week. And when I finally went, they said that I was around my heart and lungs had filled up with fluid, that it was just kind of the right time for me to be there.
Yeah. That must have been scary for you, maybe, your mom and we just got a new grandson, probably, so how was that moment where you were at the hospital and then, this news comes to you? What were some of the things that went through your mind? Like what are some of the things you were thinking about or worried about right there?
It felt unreal. Being very young, it took a lot to comprehend, I would say. Um, and it took a while for me to actually learn what was really going on with myself. But it was a feeling of hope and it was a feeling of it would get better
Yeah.
in time.
And what are some of the support you got? Because, this congestive heart failure, like you said, was the first time you're hearing about this. So how did you kind of start learning about this? Like what were some of the sources that came to you? And then how long were you at the hospital at that time? Like, when you came in, after feeling the symptoms for a week, what are some of the things they also did, at that moment?
Well, they ran a lot of tests, and at the time, they didn't quite understand there was no diagnosis during my pregnancy of any high blood pressure or anything. So they were real puzzled themselves, actually. And I had tons of cardiologists that I saw. Um, it was the typical, getting the fluid off, a lot of blood work, a lot of tests, a lot of echocardiograms, and just some, social workers coming in, some educators coming in to talk with me about what this was and
Yeah,
the good and the bad about it. I mean,
yeah,
so they prepared me, kind of semi prepared me for both the good and the bad.
yeah, yeah. That must be helpful because in a moment like you said, you don't know, so you probably pretty lost.
Yeah.
So, but I wanted to check on life also before the diagnosis. Like you were pregnant, so probably 18 or 19 already. But like, what was life like in those, the preceding years? What were you up to? What was Jodie? What were you like? What was life like? Yeah, before the diagnosis.
I was playing basketball. I was running track. I was very active, even with my pregnancy, very active.
Yeah,
Didn't gain too much weight or anything, just normal pregnancy.
yeah,
Didn't feel any different. But all the way from middle school to high school, I played basketball. In my time, I was considered tall. These young ladies now are tall, but I was 5'9", so that was kind of tall for me back
yeah,
then. But yeah, basketball, track. I loved being outdoors. Kind of a tom girl, actually.
yeah.
Tom.
Come on, yeah, that's a lot of fun. Living life to the fullest. And then you said you play basketball. What was your position and how good were you?
I played center. I sure did. And I was starting. Even in high school, I came into high school playing a starting position. So,
That's so cool. Yeah,
yeah, I had a scholarship to Carolina, Chapel Hill,
yeah,
but I found out I was pregnant.
yeah.
So I chose to become a mother and a wife.
Bless you. Bless you. I'm sure you're happy about that. You're a beautiful son, but I'll let you tell us a little bit. And then track, what was the track about? What did you do in track?
I ran, I did the hurdle. That was
Yeah.
pretty much it. Yeah, I just did the hurdles.
The hurdle is tough. I mean, I've never really done it, like seriously, but I gotta respect those people. You gotta be focused and still fast. So that's amazing. You saw the video about the lady that had to from Belgium that had to run for. I think she did short put or something. So she had to
Mhm.
run for her team. So she did like 30 seconds or something, but it was like she had good form, I guess. But it was very interesting because people go fast. Yeah.
Mm.
This that's amazing. So I mean, you got a diagnosis, like you say, you got all the documentation and stuff, and then you go home. What's that process like? Like, what was supporting you? Because it's a big deal, like you said. So you have your family, you have the kid to look out for. So how was that like? Because in my experience, the support is very important. Especially those early days. You mentioned your mom, but I wanted to see like how was those few days and who was there to help you, navigate those early days. Yeah.
Well, it was kind of hard. I wasn't able to raise my son very much in the beginning because he wasn't allowed at the hospital with him being so young. And I wasn't, I couldn't see him. But my mother was very, very big support, making sure that, he continued to know, regardless of how old he was, who I was. Because I stayed in the hospital for about a month or so after I was diagnosed.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's a long time, especially for a baby just born, like when those are crucial bonding moments and you couldn't do your skin to skin and all of that. It must have
Yeah,
been tough on you mentally. Like,
it really
it's-
was. Being a new mother and not being able to see him or, nurture him the way that I, planned. And I had other family support, but not a lot of people that understood the the seriousness of the situation.
yeah, can imagine. Yeah. And how was like, yeah, that's it. I mean, I'm glad you mentioned that because, we obviously know more now. It's 20, for you, 23 years, and, we've been hearing about this for a while. Um, but how was that? Like, what were some of those symptoms afterwards? I mean, before you mentioned shortening the breath, but like when you came back home, you must have been tired and some of those things. And you must also be like maybe frustrated by not being able to do things. So how did you kind of, you know, help people understand a little bit more and how long did that take more or less where you feel like, okay, I think they get it now.
Well, being completely honest, from 19 to actually about 30, I didn't notice it.
You didn't
I
notice it?
No, I continue to go to my doctor's appointments. He would say, "You're doing okay. Keep doing what you're doing."
Yeah,
And as a young person, I have to be brutally honest. I went on with life.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's I mean, that's this a bit, I guess, speculative, but like, so compared to some of the other folks that you read through this journey, how did you think that mindset was helpful to you? Because, like you said, you're young and you just want to keep on going through life, living. 19 to 30, that's like, 11 years of, if my maths is correct, that's a long time to, to manage what it means you're probably doing the right things and then the right attitude. But, not like share it not so we can also see that it can be tough for some other folks. And then, that's, I just want to see if you witnessed that or, if you had to talk to somebody who just been diagnosed, what would be like, the advice or the suggestion or, recommendation you make to those folks?
The recommendation I will make is to definitely put yourself first and to definitely look into other avenues, look into other ways to help yourself. Maybe a second opinion with another doctor, because I feel like, that's where I kind of went wrong. And also too, I learned that rest and stress, rest is very important. Stress is a number one to the heart, I believe.
Yeah.
And some eating properly too, but also just putting yourself first and taking a moment to realize that without you, you can't help anyone else.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good advice. If I'm also thinking about for myself, I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And that's been helpful to me. Few cases, some cases, yeah. Actually, most cases. And, but that must be tough though, because, for somebody who used to be there for other people and active, it's a switch you have to make.
Mhm.
I cannot imagine for you, but I want to understand how that was for you. And, you know, um, your mom probably will understand, she's your mom, but then how was it with your parents and other families and all of those things? Like, and were you feeling like, guilty or anything, in that moment?
Well, I got married at 19 as well to my son's father. So the relationship wasn't very well. It wasn't very supportive.
Yeah.
And friends, when you are not, when you, bo- it's more or less me becoming a wife and a mother than me being diagnosed with something that
Okay.
my friends kind of dropped off. But deep down inside of me, I always wondered, would it ever get better? Would it ever heal back to 50% or more? So I didn't really have, it was mostly just working. It's
Yeah.
mostly just working and being a mother. That was it. That nightlife I didn't have anymore. I was just a young mother and young wife.
Yeah. 19 is too young to like retire, from that life. So, but it sounds like you got your priorities and you focus on that. And in a few many cases, that lessens a lot and the stress. I think you mentioned that. So that's, must have been like probably tough at the beginning, but it sounds like it was helpful. I wanted to check also, like tell us a little bit about the day to day, of, living with that. You mentioned, eating well, staying active and all of those elements. So what was the day to day like? And then at the same time, the doctor were managing you rather well. How was that like? Because, we know that when you have cardiac, we have heart failure or congestive heart failure, one measure is the EF. There might have been other EF or measures for you, which is the ejection fraction. So yeah, what was those indicators that you were tracking and following, trying to improve? But also, what was on the other side, like at home in between the visit, what were some other things you were doing, day in and day out to stay well and to stay strong?
First, I have to say a lot of prayer and a lot of getting to know God, getting to know my inner self, my spiritual self throughout it all. When I was diagnosed, my EF was 19.
Yeah.
And up until 30, my EF only increased to about 25%.
You were at home
And
with that?
I'm sorry?
And so you were at home with the EF of 2025.
Yes.
How much energy you had? So I had to tell you, but that's like a big factor. Like how much energy do you even have, like to keep going and stuff? like working and all of that?
I worked third shift. My shifts was 7 p to 7 a as a nurse. I took care of my mother and father during the day and raised my son as a single mother. I'm busy, I didn't notice it.
That's impressive. That's impressive. I remember when I had gone down up to 11, and then I was on a million alone, and it had gone up, I think, a little bit to 20 or so. I couldn't function 2 days in a row. So like,
Mm.
so do something today, like this, I go out or I go to school. I was just keeping busy. But then the next day I'll have to stay in bed half a day at least, like, only not even the night. So that's why I'm very impressed and intrigued by that. Yeah, like you mentioned the spiritual journey, you went through, that's also been very strong for you. At the same time, you were a nurse. I didn't even know that part. Nurses are the best people in the world, not just because of the work they do. I feel like it takes certain characters to be able to do that in and out with all the journey it comes with it, and probably not enough pay, and then still going in and out. You have to be organized and all of that. So I'm also kind of maybe assuming that you're very well organized in, how you set those boundaries and how you keep up. Right. Yeah. Tell us a little bit more, because I know I cut you off, but tell us a little bit more about that, like day in, day out, and then how often when you go to the doctor, what were the things you were trying to.
I was going to the doctor, they had me going about once a month, and that was for blood work. And like I said, I didn't know quite much about what was going on or if I even wanted to mentally accept it. But I just continued on, and I just felt like my drive for raising my son and helping my parents was what was keeping me going. At the age of 30 is when I switched doctors, cardiologists, and they felt like I needed a pacemaker, which is a defibrillator and a pacemaker.
Yeah.
And I had that placed. And then it just seemed like after 30, things just started really changing. I think me not sleeping at night for over 10 years. I took care of my mother, which had dementia, for 10 years. So, and when my mother was diagnosed, my son was 10. So it was a little rough on him
Yeah.
as well, seeing that transition of my mother and also not really having me there as much.
Yeah.
But I felt if I worked while they would sleep, then I would be okay. So after 30, things started to really change and my mindset started to really be like, okay, what's happening? I need to do something different.
Yeah.
So that's when the shift started with me in my body.
So you said that, all those years, of, I guess, beating up your body still, even though we had heart failure and all of that. I know sleeping enough, I've caught up with you. And then you mentioned the AICD. So, which sometime, they will do it probably early on too, I mean, true, it's safe because the AICD itself shouldn't make it worse or not. Why do you say that it started going down? What were some of the things that started happening, when you turned 30 to basically start to go down or start to get worse?
It was once I had the defibrillator put in the ICD and started seeing a different doctor, and they started explaining, like you said, the Melorone, and which he
Yeah.
called rocket fuel. So I don't know if you've ever
Yes,
heard
it is.
of
It's ahead of them, but yeah, it does work like that. It's an amazing,
it is very amazing. And just to start to say, okay, Jody, w- we need to shift some things. We need to change your medicine around. We need to, do some things. And just I lost my mother and my father both in 2017. I never heard of anything called broken heart syndrome until then,
Yeah,
which I think I was diagnosed with along with the CHF. So just around 35, 36, everything just came down. The broken heart syndrome, the not getting the proper rest, the not eating properly, the stress. And that's when I can relate now to what you were saying. I could be up good for a day or two and had to sleep a day or two. Barely could go up and down my stairs, barely could take a walk.
yeah,
That's when those things started happening and the medication started changing quite a lot. And
yeah.
higher doses and different medications. So
Yeah, yeah. You were going into heart failure,
yeah,
acute heart failure, because that's shocking. And then your son, how old was your son around that time? Like 10
he
or
was
like,
10. Well,
yeah,
when I was diagnosed, he was just born. So
yeah,
he was about 2 weeks old when I was diagnosed. And
yeah.
when I actually started getting really sick,
It must have been seven. You said 2017, right? This is when you're
yeah,
going for it. Yeah, so that's
mhm,
probably like 16, 17, like
yeah,
in the prime of his teen years.
yeah. So he was getting ready to graduate high school.
Wow. Yeah. How was that like for him? Because at that point, as a kid, now you're becoming a man, and there's that we tend to have a big thing against teenagers because I'm scared of them. But like, that's when they start to try things and step up and stuff. And then, there's all these things out of
Mhm.
his control. So I'm wondering, what were some of the things he was telling you, and how were you guys managing that as mother and son?
Very protective, I should say, but very, very strong on me, very hard on me. Trying to understand what it was I was going through, but also saying, "Okay, mom, get up, let's go. You got this. If you speak it into existence, then it'll be. So speak good." So his mind, the younger children, their mindset are a lot different.
Yeah,
And then to say, well, just let me lay down and rest a little bit, or let me just take a nap.
yeah,
It's no, if you get out and go ground yourself, let's go sit in the sun. You know. So that was, but he was very strong. I have to
yeah.
say, very strong, a great kid, a
So
great
to me,
kid.
yeah. Listen,
I couldn't ask for a better kid doing the whole situation.
yeah.
So
So it's like it stood up, it stood up and almost take charge of the situation, but while being caring and loving and empathetic and stuff. It's amazing. I know I say a lot of things about teenagers, but I have good hope. They give me hope. I mean, I'm not that old either, but like this younger generation, like like when I hear them speak and the things they do, it's honestly impressive. So that gives me a lot of hope. But that's amazing that he was doing that because you guys need each other, right? So it's good that you're able to show that love in different ways to each other, and then know yourself so well that okay, you need to get rest, you need to be grounded. So that's impressive. Yeah, so take us through the next few years, because I believe you have an album now, right? Or you had an album.
I still do, yes.
So when did that happen?
So I wasn't feeling well for a while. Patrick had graduated high school. My mother and father had passed. Still more stress on me dealing with, their things, dealing with him going to college. And I kept avoiding it for a while, saying I'm okay, but I was just so tired. I was so out of breath. I just felt as if I was like drowning. I had so much fluid. Seen my doctor, and my cardiologist said, Jody, you really, really, really need to consider the LVAD, well, which she called it a heart pump at the
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
And I didn't have much education on it. I think I didn't quite want to hear it.
yeah,
Couldn't imagine myself, because I was the type of person that said I never wanted to have surgery.
yes,
So I just kept saying, oh, I'll be okay. I'll be okay. So one evening I was taking a shower and just collapsed. And I woke up in the hospital. They said I had a fluid overload. And it was the most ironic thing. I had an amazing boyfriend at the time. And all of a sudden, I felt as if things were shutting down on me. And it started from the top of my head and started going down. And I went into cardiac arrest. I woke up and basically had already had ECMO started. And I woke up to my family there. My son at the age of 18, he was hysterical. And there was one nurse, I never forget, that I didn't quite know myself what was going on, but I asked her to explain to my family and help my son
yeah,
with whatever the situation was, and pretty much was told that I needed to have this surgery in order to stay alive.
yeah,
So I believe I was told by my boyfriend that I was in ICU on ECMO for 2 weeks and pretty much in an induced coma. I didn't know that. When I woke up, I was already in ICU, and I had the right LVAD and left LVAD.
Oh, both?
Yes, and I was still on ECMO. So I had all these things hooked up at one time.
Wow. That's a lot of wires.
It is.
Yes, that's a lot.
As soon as the ventilator was taken out, I was like, "Look, I need to get up." The nurse part of me kicked in. I need to get up. I need to walk. They said, "Well, Miss Hollett, we never had anyone walk on ECMO,"
Oh, really?
because I had 4 tubes actually.
Yeah.
And so you're familiar with ECMO.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you have like two children from that, and then you have other stuff.
So I would be walking down the hallway in ICU, and I would have the ECMO machine, the RVAD, the LVAD, the IV pole, a chair. I would have 100 people behind me.
That's what I was gonna say. You talk to, so there's people like making sure you don't fall. It's a long way down.
Yeah,
There's scaring folks out there.
yeah,
It's
down.
important to walk. I like that part. Like, but I had those tough moments, but I had learned from my injuries, like in college. Like, I had an ACL repair and stuff. Actually, most of the ACL, the other stuff too. But I remember the first thing as soon as I woke up, it was I was a short lady, but like, this elderly lady, they're like, okay, let's go. I'm like, let's go where? But yeah, she's like, just gonna start walking, man. And then the influence was, I really appreciated that. And then same thing happened, of course, after transplant. Sorry, after the LVAD implant, which was the first time. But that's amazing that your nurse, the nurse education kicked in. And I'm wondering what your family, I don't know if the family was aware, but what were they thinking about that
Yeah.
in that moment where you're trying to walk in and get better, I guess, because your body starts functioning at that moment.
Well, I went through this situation during COVID. So the first month of me being in the hospital, my family was there. The first surgery took place along with ECMO and placing of the right and the left LVAD. So the second surgery, that's when COVID hit.
Yeah.
So they had limited who could come, who could be there. So it was down kind of like a person a day. The same person had to come every day, which I didn't know what was going on in the outside world. I mean,
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
so much going on. I had no idea.
Yeah. There
Um,
was no warning and everything. And yeah, you couldn't, your breath space is gone. So,
yeah. So I was in ICU for 3 months
wow.
and I had 3 different surgeries. The last surgery was to take out the right LVAD. And because they explained to me that I couldn't go home on both. So that they felt my right side had healed enough with Melorone and everything else that it would support.
Yeah.
And I remember crying to my doctor. I had the best doctor ever, Dr. Block. No, I'm sorry, not Dr. Block. I can't think of his name right there, but Dr. Mitchkin and another doctor, but he's a very great doctor here in Charlotte. I believe he's the only one that puts the LVADs in, I believe.
Oh,
And he would come in every morning and do his rounds and say, "Hey, sunshine." And I had good days and bad days. I had days where I didn't want to get up, days I was nauseated,
yeah.
days I felt dizzy. A lot of depression kicked in. So, as my friends in ICU would walk past, they would give me the thumbs up just as well as when they're down, I would go by their room and give them the thumbs up and say, "Hey, let's
For
go."
sure.
But the last surgery, I kind of begged the doctor, like, "Hey, I'm by myself. I don't want to be on the ventilator." It was very scary being on the opposite side as a nurse. I never thought that I would be on the opposite side.
Yeah. It's sometimes better not to know.
Yeah. Uh,
Sometimes better not to know. To be naive is helpful. Yeah.
yeah.
That must have been. So, now that you had it on the other side, what was going through your mind?
So much. I mean, I had a little delirium from
Yeah.
some of the medication I was on in the beginning. It made me humble.
Yeah. Yeah.
It made me see life different. I truly felt that there was a second chance
Yeah.
and that I had to take full opportunity of it. And I had to not dwell in what was going on, but
Yeah.
learn how to not let it live within me, but live with it.
Yeah. Yes.
And I felt like I had more life to live. And don't get me wrong, it was very scary. But with prayer and God and my family, my support, I'm thankful. I'm
I love it.
thankful.
I love that you said live with it. 'Cause that's the message of this show.
Mhm.
Living with heart disease is not the end of the road, and in many cases you can make it. But yeah, it's definitely rough. It's definitely
Yeah.
rough. But it sounds like you made that conscious decision, somewhere in that moment, and then you had the support around you. You had, like you said, great doctors, family, outside loving you, and then yeah, you're like, understand this opportunity, then you decide to seize it. That's strong resolve. That's like, I feel like the tricky part for me is that you were 19 when this happened. And then, 19 was strong, we have our characters and stuff. But on top of that, it seems like those next 10 years or so were also very strong for you to prepare you for the health, and then take this bigger decision for somebody who didn't want to have a surgery. Now you have 3, 4 surgeries like right there. That's a lot. Yeah. So
My
then,
doctor was very amazed of how long I've had CHF.
yeah, yeah, that's impressive. 23 years. Also, not just CHF for me, but like we had a low EF. You had like that's a heart failure EF that literally you live with. That's like they book you for that. So to me, that's the impressive part. That's 25. For something that is normally 50 or 70, to 70. It's
Mm.
it's just, I mean, it's half of 50, but like it's a big difference. So I don't know why they were impressed, but that's definitely one reason to be impressed. Yeah. So then you got out of that with the NVAT, this is a pump inside your heart helping your body pump. And then you said 3 months in ICU. So when did you go to recovery or rehabilitation or something before you went home?
I did. I went to, I guess what they call it here, step down. It was like
Yeah.
I was only there for a week, and it just gave my family enough time to learn how to work with my LVAD and my dressings and just be educated on helping me because I was very fragile. I lost a bunch of weight, probably about 40 pounds. So I was really learning how to do a lot of things over again. I mean, I remember doing therapy. I had physical therapy, occupational therapy, and I was so weak, I couldn't even literally hold my battery for my
Yeah.
LVAD. And I
Yeah.
would
The
cry
batteries are
because
heavy too, though, right? Which heart
yeah,
rate you have? Heart
3,
rate
heart
two?
rate 3.
Yeah,
3.
three. That's the best. That's what I had. But the
Yeah.
batteries are about 1.5 pounds each. So that's 3 pounds.
Yeah.
You back up and so it's a lot you had to carry, like you said, for somebody who's frail.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was doing your dressing?
My son and my boyfriend at the time.
Yeah.
And when I say they were A pros at it, they were A pros at it. They did not play. And then I have learned how to do them myself as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. God
Well,
bless you. So
yeah.
you had the LVAD you said the pandemic, so 2020. I
Yeah,
would say, yeah. So then you're planning for what, like, 3 years, about
3
three, 4 years. Yeah. What's been like living with the LVAD? What changed in life and what changed in your approach? I mean, for the woman too, is, you have everything to look at from how you dress up to, how
yeah.
you pack your bags and stuff. So, what was that like? What is life like with the LVAD?
Well, I definitely had to learn how to love myself with the scars and having, something attached to me 24/7. And definitely learning how to dress, and so it took some time. It took some time. The biggest thing for me was not being able to I love water. So not being able to get back into the pool or the ocean or, that was the biggest thing for me. I was like, "Oh my God, really? No, But other than that, just I'm still learning some things that I shouldn't do.
That's
Far as
right.
like far as like amusement parks.
Oh, yeah.
and, and they,
You
but
go to the,
I
amuse-
did
you did that? You went to the amusement park?
I have to say I did. I did. Yeah. And I got a very good talking to from my cardiologist about it.
I'm sure you were very sorry.
I am. I was. But I was like, you know what? I want to live life. I'm trying, like, it felt like it was starting to begin. Unfortunately, after my parents passed, I didn't have to work as hard
Sure.
or do very much. I was like, okay, I can start to live a lot life now a little bit. And then this happened. So I'm like, okay, I'm kind of back at square one again.
Yeah.
So definitely loving the skin that I'm in. I'm still working on that.
Yeah.
Uh,
And when you're working on that, what does that mean? Like, are you doing therapy? Are you doing like your meditation? What are some of the things you're doing? Or it's just mostly you, going into your, moments, grounding and stuff?
well, I'm definitely going to therapy due to, some of the delirium and things that happen in the hospital. So I definitely see a therapist. My sleep pattern is definitely off. So some of the mental has changed, far as like the mind wandering and things like that. Wondering, if I hear a beeping noise, I'm like, where is it coming from? Or if I feel a little flutter, I'm like, oh God, what is this? Or so, and then the biggest thing was I lost my brother not even a month after I came home from the hospital. I lost my oldest brother. And I was in the store looking for something to wear for his funeral, and my defibrillator had never went off in over 10 years. And it went off and shot me 5 times.
Wow.
So at that time, I was still standing, and it felt like I was like, "Oh, did this pump just explode?" I was like, what just happened?" And I actually laid myself down because for 2 or 3 shocks, I was still standing up,
Yeah.
and it shocked my boyfriend at the time as well, and I just eventually just laid myself on the ground and was like, just started praying. That was new to me as well. I had never
Yeah.
experienced that. Just staying staying prayed up, staying faithful, s learning myself, staying grounded. I've turned to a lot of more herbal supplements, natural supplements. Of course, I still have to take, my Coumadin and my heart medicine and stuff like that, but definitely for my energy and my mindset, looking into other, natural healing.
Yeah. Those are both, those can be spiritual and, helpful to your body, sharpening. I mean, fast forward to now, and I think we were talking, before we went live, you're giving me some updates on where things are and what are some of the recommendations. So bring us to like, the present time and what you're juggling with. It seems like there might be a lot of surgery and a lot of fear and questions. Yeah. So what's going on?
Well, I mean, I have my good days and my bad days. My EF has not changed. It's still about 25 to 24.
Okay.
And my last hospital stay was a couple months back. I had a lot of fluid overload. And at that time, I was told then to start looking or considering really hard about the heart transplant.
Yeah.
And I've had a second opinion from Duke Medical, and they've told me the same thing. It's possible we can do it, but you're high rejection. And at that time, I'm like, it's a choice. Do I want to put myself through another surgery or just continue to live life at its fullest and do the best that I can with the LVAD?
Yeah. So you haven't been listed yet to be on the
No,
transplant list.
no,
Have, has anyone tell you that you can be listed and still say no to the heart when it comes and you won't be
no,
penalized for it?
no,
Have you ever had an infection on the health?
no. Thank God. No.
Yeah. No, those are all good. It's always good and bad news. Because what I know from the system, especially now, when you're on the NVAT, there's like 5 or 6 layers. So you have one, status one, the people that are really in hospital, critical or needed. There's status two, the people still in hospital with an infection or something. And there's status three with a device like the LVAD or something with an infection. And then with people that are living okay, they have status four. And then below that, status seven is when you're off the network, when you're traveling or something. So it would take longer for people that are on status four. But part of the criteria to get a heart is also the time you've been on the list. And I'm saying all of this is just my, I guess, humble suggestion is to go through evaluation, get listed, and then accrue that time to improve your chances if and when you need it in the future. It's definitely a scary thing. From my own experience, I think it's good when you are in good shape, and the everybody allows you that. But you know your condition, you mentioned a lot of other issues, rejection, antibodies, and all of that. So I'm wondering why they're saying the health, like the heart transplant now is something, it doesn't sound critical, but it's important to, consider it. So if I
Yeah.
had any advice, I guess his friend is get listed and then figure out these issues during that time. It would take time before they get you in your heart anywhere. But then when you need it, you want to get listed because you're not going to have like emergency listing or anything like that. That's, they'll have to keep you in the hospital for a while and all of that. That would be my only suggestion, and then you can always say no to the hack when it comes. Like, I'm not ready. I don't want it, something. And there's no one won't penalize you. But then on the positive side too, is that if you like the water so much, the transplant is your next step.
Yeah.
You can go back to swimming. But yeah, that's the positive side. But trust me, I felt worse with the transplant after the transplant operation than the helper. It was definitely tough on me, you know. But it's been like it's going to 9 months now.
Mhm.
But after the second month, I could walk around a bit. Third month, by the third month, I was already driving, like slowly. But now I'm like at a point, let's say starting 1, 5, 6. Those are the critical months at the beginning because you have a lot of medication stuff, and then they start winding you down after meds and stuff, adjusting all the supplements, the vitamins, all of that. Then I start to get better and be more active. But it's a journey that, you have to plan a lot and plan well. I'm glad you have a second opinion in Duke. Duke is one of the, leading hospitals in this surgery. So that's a tough place to be. So I want to hear more about that. Like, I can already see, your body reacting and stuff. So what's going on? Like, what are some of those things that you're forced to consider now in your situation? I mean, you don't like surgeries, which makes sense.
Mhm.
Uh, and the transplant, it seems like it's not as low risk as it could be or it should be. So what are some of those challenges you have to think about and address or navigate?
To be honest, it's a little bit of fear, but I have to say, nothing fears me but God. And if I made it through this, I can say I can make it through anything, but when I asked my doctor, I said, well, to my knowledge of this, you can't put an LVAD on a transplant heart, right?
No.
Okay. And I guess I need to be more knowledgeable of some of it than going off of from past people's experiences, maybe for myself. Because when the 3 surgeries happened, I had no idea they were happening.
Yeah.
I mean, I pretty much did not know anything about what was going on with me until I went to recovery.
Yeah. And you had no say in the whole journey and you were not
Yeah.
as prepared as you could be.
Yeah. I had no say. It was like my son, my family's decision and the best decision. And it was just kind of being done. So for
Yeah.
me to go and say, okay, here I am, let's do this and not feel a little bit good about the outcome,
Yeah.
it worries me a little bit.
Yeah. No,
So
I love that. I think I like that. And that's also testament of your journey, your personality, right? You've been a nurse, you like to be organized. And I think the doctors appreciate a patient like this. And now you're in control. The environment allows you to have that space to be at peace with whatever decision you make and stuff. And it's definitely not a short journey. So I like it when your patients are in charge and then they collaborate well with the doctor. That's been one of my personal goals too, like patient. I mean, obviously you're a special patient being a nurse before, and then also just who you are over the night, past 23 years with this issue. It's amazing. Um, so I think today, we are almost about 15 minutes or so. So I think we're gonna wrap up at here now. This will be like part one, and I want to continue talking. I want to get a little bit about in your social side of thing. We're gonna go to Instagram, and then maybe we can do a day when your son is around. I want to hear a little bit about his version, so we can plan that for part two. So let's kind of maybe wrap up this moment. You told us a lot, about yourself, your journey and where you are today, facing bigger decisions. So I'm hoping the previous decision, prepared you well, but, still doesn't make it easier. And obviously, we're rooting and praying for you. We want to keep seeing you win. And, you grounded in God. So we pray that God continue to guide you. And then whatever the outcome is, that is a positive outcome for you, and your family. So thanks a lot for this moment. I'd like to let the guests wrap it up. So I'll let you have the last few words and then we'll post for now. And I can't wait to talk again with you, on part 2 of the conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I truly have to say blessings. And it's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to speak with you. I've been following you through your journey, and you're amazing. You're amazing at what you're doing, getting this out there. It's not an easy task. You don't have a lot of people that even want to take the time to recognize it or understand it. But by you putting it out there, it's a wonderful thing. So blessings to you. Blessings to your health and your family as well. And I can't wait to share more with you and speak with you more. All of this I've done, I have to close this by saying I had to learn it was for my life, but it was for my son's life. So I wanted to see him prosper. I wanted to see him grow. I wanted to see his life be fulfilled. And I feel that, in my spirituality, that I will have that moment to see him grow and to see him become the person. Because he's put so much time into being there for me. So now it's his time. So
I love hearing that. His mom, and, there's, I'm not saying the right word, but there's no force stronger than the love of a mom. You guys went through, the journey went through is literally heaven and hell.
yeah,
So, yeah, definitely rooting for him too. And it's going to be great. By the sound of it, it's been great already. So hopefully continue to be great and be, like you said, fulfill it. Live his life, a fulfilled life for himself. And that's, I guess, mommy's goal. And that's beautiful. I'm so grateful for this moment and, following you and your pictures with you and your son and your partner. And yeah, can't wait to talk again. So thank you so much, Jodie. You take care, okay?
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
We are reminded that we are all connected through our experiences of friends, family, and community. We thank our guests for your generosity of heart, looking beyond your sorrow to share your journey and inspire others. And thank you for listening to this episode. We hope it did your heart grow. Visit us online for more resources at heartofagile.org. And for more about the podcast, visit livingwithheartdisease.show. Thank you. Goodbye.